What's up, everybody? Welcome to Sleep Atomic, and this is the show where I set my opinions about the latest shows coming out and things I wanted to say about them. And this week, it is that time again for Andor. We're on episode 7 announcement already at the beginning of the episode, starting pretty strong. It sounds as though this is the episode where they put the most work where the words are and crafted it the best way that they could the best way that they could show you and also grab your attention. Some would say all the focus is supposed to be on Cassian, but I like all the other characters being uh zoomed in on. We had Mon Mothma from the recap, and then Luthen, Bix, and Tim. I'm sure just because they're about to go back to Ferrix, just as like a story. And of course, our guy Cyril right here, even though he's on the other side, and Deidre. I think in the first to last, Mon Mothma, Cyril, and then any of the Ferrix characters would be the last ones, like on my favorite ones to see. I guess Luthen needs to be in there, but I don't know. It's like a different thing with Luthen. It kind of feels as though he is the story. Like he's like trailblazed the path that Cassian's kind of going on, but Cassian gets to go on it by himself. I'm sure Luthen has had to step into many different shoes and have other people along. Kind of like the way that they like pointing how the force is like all encompassing and guides you. But I'm thinking more like goal oriented, kind of like a thing, but still fairly encompassing, and you kind of like find like the boundaries for guidance. I would say as a man, but I'm probably sure just as a person, just walking through the world, and this is the path that it leads if you keep ascending the, or even like pressing forward with just like values and just standards of goals. You could say the most important thing he'll do is probably the stuff in Rogue One, but I've always been the proponent of the start of his path, and it's like him being at that bar and then getting more attention from the bartender than these two security HQ guys, and them mistaking Cassian as this cowboy esque like hard figure that is too tough to even like mess with. So you have to be uh good to him. But this is just the general outside opinion, just because this expression on his face or something like that. Maybe the clothes he wears or how he walks. But the reason why I bring Luthen up was I'm sure at some point the choice of being this rebel instead of like funding it and running it like forked off, and instead he's like this successful business person and he can't really like step away from it. Not as long as necessary as it would be to rebel, but he has a rebellion, so it kind of looks like he has the best outcome, but not if like his goal is to be in a rebellion. it's like, yeah, I know, boo, like, oh, like he's doing so good, and all he can do is fund a rebellion and put it together. But now the empire around Deidre is trying to determine how hard to close their fists. Like, I don't really like that line, but it's maybe only because, like, you would imagine some sort of disciplinarian kind of like subsequent, like, delinquency that you, like, wouldn't really, like, want to, like, have to deal with or be around for too long. Like, that I could see, yeah, like, maybe, like, if they had provided, like, a great, like, environment, I would be like, oh yeah, like them rebels need to like do something like else or something. But it's kind of like ultra clear that the empire is like kind of like just taking stuff and like not caring what the people that provided it or they took from was needing. I only say that like as someone's like, oh yeah, like, oh, okay, like, well, I'll do this so you can get your like emotional fulfillment. It's not like someone's like, or I'm even like just taking something from someone. It's just like a little tangible thing that makes me like, oh, or intangible thing that makes me like appreciate like these lines that the empires like giving it or saying mostly to Deidre. Just like those certain interactions where it's like, oh well, all like that person wants from me is like me to compliment them, but like I have to like pass them or see them. I can't just like say hello. And like either way, there's a backlash. So there's not even like a good way to just like, oh yeah, I'll just keep it like here and then blah blah blah, or even like just like tick around like around in like little phases of stuff to have them keep going so they could like survive the day, I guess. Or maybe in like even like a neighbor or something, but the only place we all have to be is at work, so. But hey, Cyril got a job, or I guess he's getting an interview. I really don't know what his mom's talking about, but the brown makes Cyril look just fine. Like it looks good, at least compared to like the gray, blue, uh, orange lined like uniform he used to wear. She just like drops that line on him. It's like it looks like you're like trying to say like, oh look at me, like I need approval, like I don't believe in myself. It's like dang harsh. I'm sure there's like the same thing you could derive from that look that's like not that, but at this point we all know like she's like trying to like have him like follow this track that most of her family members like go to. Maybe just because of the uncle with the influence, but I could see why it like recoils on Cyril, like maybe like emotionally, where he needs to get this glory or like stay on track, I guess, to some high road somewhere. But maybe, just to be fair, is like he could like not done that, and it'd just be like him just doing something like ultimately gratifying that I guess like she would say something nice about, just to where it's like a lot for him, but like where like he doesn't have to like keep like climbing the ladder. But I think that might just be the thing this whole episode, just like a emotional efficiency, I guess. Which I wasn't even trying to like reach for because there's like no one like using the forest, but it's like dark and light and like kind of like balancing it. Even though like it doesn't seem like either Sith or the Jedi like do any of that. Like I guess all these normal people do it. I think Deidre's like, oh, this is good and bad. Cyril does notices only bad stuff. and it could be not bad at all. And then Luthen does the same thing, but it's like, oh, this could be something, like, I guess good, like positive, like in some direction. And my theory for today, like for Mon Mothma, is like, oh, she needs some bad around, so she's like looking around for something. Not that she wouldn't have anything available, but she was like wanting something like she like had a play in, just so she can like see it up close. And yes, I'm going off of her, just her living situation, that she's like all in like the good status, but she also has like social parties, just like where they just kind of stand around and talk and drink and nibble on food. And then Cassian's like good, good, bad, 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 good, good. I guess most of the people in Ferrix is like pretty neutral. They all have like very necessary like uh normal stuff that they have to do, and then also have like certain freedoms as well. I only say bad stuff for like Luthen and like Mon Mothma, even though like helping the rebellion, it involves like blowing stuff up and like so even if it's like doing some sort of Robin Hood kind of a deal, like people do like don't make it back to their families like that. And it's kind of like ironic, like you don't see this portrayal of the Empire like kill anybody at all, or like they're just like economically like harming people. I just thought that was like kind of funny for some reason. Just like, oh, why are you in that wheelchair? It's like, oh, crippling debt. Oh, the debt got me. I mean, they are the ones in control, but they like haven't been showing anything like that. And they have like another like good line of the if I show you the stone in my hand, you won't notice the knife at your throat. It's the part of the speech that the Senator Mon Mothma was like saying to the banker guy, Tay, uh, that one good looking dude with the white hair. It's a part of the speech that she's like trying to like get her or get him to up to speed to what she was kind of feeling about the whole thing before Mon Mothma told Tay about the rebellion and how she kind of need help. She says she definitely needs help with this banking and getting into this money, or maybe hiding money. Maybe it kind of seems like it's supposed to be like parodying like something actually happening in the real world. Mon Mothma mentions someone with a big title like Grand Vizier or something, and then like her driver is a ISB agent. I guess they can't really access their large sums of money like they would really want to, but it looks like she's like redistributing this like kind of like behavior that was like acted upon like towards her, like this oh, I'm going to tell you something, and then you kind of tell them something, and then you leave it incredibly vague with them like wanting you to do something. It's like a different version of I'll show you mine if you show me yours thing, but it's like she like went to like a different level, like completely. Like the Tay banker guy just showed up, was like, "Hey, how are you?" And then she goes and does that. Like maybe it's to get a new response instead of like one of the usual ones. Just like, oh, everyone compliments me, but like, yeah, like you kind of dress nice though, and do your hair and makeup, whatever. At least it feels like in out in the open, like just between people, like not on a camera. I'm sure there's more than just compliments, and there's other like illicit response that usually happens like around a certain person. And certain people will even get like certain things said near them or to them. Just like some people just like smelled a script off of them, and then you're just like, this is so boring and usual. Like that's kind of what it looks like to me. Like he was ready to like laugh and like, oh, like that's great, like talk them up and everything, but then it's like he's just gonna like have this like open face on, like even they were probably even ready down to the expression. Like it's so minuscule that they'll like need to like go out and like have certain events to fulfill like an emotional need. Most people will just like have a friend over, but like I guess they all just like went to do that just like in a group setting. Maybe just so everyone knows what's like happening, and instead of just like friends like not exactly like understanding like why you're like, hey, like can you like cheer me up or something, like and there's like, what, you're my friends, like what do you want, like, and like the whole flip again where it's like, yeah, like you're my friend, like what are you doing? They're not even like doing a thing where they're having you around as a prop or something. It's like, well, I don't want to just like pay for stuff or like have favors like being like given to you or whatever. But it's just like an interesting looking scene to me. It's like, oh, I never did anything like that with this, it looking like that. Like the husband's like in the background looking cool and like it's like, yeah, like I I established the like mood and the environment. There's like all these blue drinks and stuff. And I'm sure there's like other people. It's like, oh yeah, like I'm that kind of person that's like this or can do this worthy for other people. It kind of doesn't seem like some people like have a certain option of that or need like a clump of that from someone, or maybe like a few people just so you know like what's like what they're doing at the time of day. Like everyone got to know each other eventually. Like kind of like your parents getting to know your parents' friends or your friends' parents or your friends, I guess. But it's like, oh yeah, like if they're talking, like they're doing construction or something like that, or they're like shooting a movie, like you either A can go help, B eventually go see what they did, and then C, like the letter, you can like just inform everybody, or just D, like apparently just like make something up because you didn't know what, or you just mistakenly got it wrong. But it's funny because like certain people like don't get like the whole like thing about all that stuff, and they're like paranoid or something. It's like, how'd they know like I'm up to no good? It's like you're hanging out with them. Like it's like, what's up with them? It's like you're probably like trying to impress them. Like them, they are fine. But when you are with them over there, you're it's not very good news. But then like they start thinking like people are spying on them or like starting rumors or gossiping or something like that. Or even so far as like people are like reading their minds or something, even though it's like something super typical, and like they can either figure it out or that they seen first or second hand like that like thing that happened or will happen or is happening. It's like you didn't come up with the human existence, and then like I thought you thought that was like bad anyway, and if you like weren't trying to do it. He's like, yeah, I get it. Like, welcome to the human race. Get settled in. I'm glad you're paying attention now. He's like, oh, what? No? Oh, okay, well, I better at least go over there to tell everyone where not to be right now. It's like, well, it's like, no, I didn't do. Oh, okay, yeah, sure, yeah, I'm responsible just because, like, I'm worried about what's gonna happen. He's like, yeah, no, go on ahead. Yeah, right. You're right. You're completely right. It's like a little far out, but it's like, yeah, like kind of what starts Deidre stuff, but like at this point on Mon Mothma's side, it's like we don't not need you doing that, Deidre, but it's like maybe you could just like help Cyril or like date him or something like. And if we're like kind of like tearing it out, like Luthen's like next to like all of these people, like he can be like about like anywhere, but bottom level is like uh baseline like neutral. But you go, what about the rebellion, Al? Like where does that go? Like that's just like another line, but like these lines are coming up like a bar graph or like buildings coming out from the ground that but they just grew like that, made of Cassian and uh Jin Urso, Galen Urso, Saul Gerrera, and Luthen and Mon Mothma, whatever Donnie Yen's character was named. The rebellion seems to be any separate behavior than what the Empire expects or the Emperor expects, even though it's kind of like barely defined. We get that with actual Clem, Marvo's like man friend, husband, I assume. When even though in this flashback with Cassian, he's trying to stop these people from throwing rocks at the stormtroopers, he ends up uh, just put away. And in the result, Cassian doesn't like react well to any sort of troopers, which is almost why at the part where he's like elsewhere on like a beach, like the shore trooper, I guess they're calling them. It's these like tan stormtroopers with like a little bit of blue, maybe for the ranking markings. Thinks that Cassian's doing something or was nervous about something because he was sweating, but he was noticing what he was noticing, but not for the correct reason. And he just happened to be like where everyone else was like sitting there like watching the waves or something, or just kind of like sitting around talking. It's like a little weird because like everyone was just kind of sitting down, and like later you're like, oh, maybe he should just like sat down. I guess is maybe like a space Miami or a space Cancun. I'm not sure. He was going to get the greeny pizzos. So I don't know. It's kind of funny. Like I don't know if like that was like a uh tourist thing or like a work abroad kind of like a small joke or like a acknowledgement. Like they couldn't read the packages like that well, but they were kind of just like describing the food that they got from the store. I just thought that was funny. I'm like, they obviously made something up, but you still go like, are they making stuff up now? Like, what is this? Cassian's like lady friend just like laying in bed, like not even clothed, asking him to pick up some groceries from their very nice like condo, I'm sure, or something from on the beach. Possibly that whole bar scene like went a little different than before from the very beginning of the show. He just continually keeps going there to start stuff again. Go to the local watering hole and see what happens because everyone seems to think something that I'm not apparently trying to uh, show everyone. And it, at least for me, brings up this feeling is like, oh, well, I guess that's how, kind of how Luthen got his like uh, bearings in the world, but he kept going and like making money or from that like antique store. possibly doing that thing where it's like, oh yeah, go travel, see the universe, do one job while you're like amassing stuff for another job. At least getting to know people like elsewhere. But unfortunately, Cassian never makes it to the store, and then the robot he ends up working with later, or the type of robot, the very tall and like strong, uh, like gunmetal black robot is like taking him to judgment, and he gets like 6 years to, or for protesting anti-empire behavior or something like that, and then fleeing, almost like echoing what Marva said later before he left. Was like, oh yeah, they're everywhere now. It's like no point. It's like might as well at least stay here where they like think I'm doing bad enough for me to be left alone. Cassian still isn't like doing the right thing uh, at the places he's at. And Marva was like wanting to do that too, but she like kind of like didn't know like he was already doing it. He was like, "Oh yeah, like it was just a robbery." Like, no, it's like a rebellion, dude. Like, kind of doing that like right up at his like doorstep, doing that thing where everyone's like construing it very differently than he is. But he like still doesn't even say like it was him on Aldhani. Although it's like, I mean, he did just like get back at about the same timing. He's like, oh, now they think I'm awesome. Well, at least my face isn't associated with this time. It's just like what I did. Cassian's very chameleon like, but it depends on which level of transparency he's on. Chameleon only in like that he can like swap colors, not that he's even like blending in apparently. Maybe like reverse chameleon. He notices blue, so he's yellow, and then he sees some rocks or something, and he's like a cactus or something. Just so he can like involve himself with like whatever scene he's in. But unfortunately, he went for tan where everything else was tan, and they went out and pulled him out as blue. If that like nonsense conversation made any correct like blocks fall into place. Sometimes the non-explanation is better for just the filler for what you should be thinking about. Because in this case, it's kind of just like, oh, okay, you're like, you might not get an answer because you're trying to figure this person out, even if it's like in real life. And the show kind of brings you along and shows you all the things that you could have thought or uh could have like just kind of like placed onto this person and just kind of like figured it out from there or just reacted from that just so you can have a place to start and go. But you can only like think and say so much. Like earlier in the episode, there's a Deidre, and like they're on the scale of like they're on a broad spectrum, so they would pick up a rebellion, but they're only dealing with big stuff. So like it kind of shaping like what their like perspective is on it. So it's like other big things. They were like talking about the map and like sectors and stuff, and like other people like don't deal with stuff like that. Like if it was like the people that bought or made the part or something, they'd be like, "Oh, let's get another one because that's what we do." But they like manage like areas of the galaxy or whatever, and then they just happen to name this like a rebellion. That's like another theme in general, where they're like wanting like a broad thing or a specific thing, like up close and personal, like Cyril. Like doesn't look like he's enjoying his job, but like he's like at a big place where like everyone's like doing this specific thing, but it's not like specific enough for him to where it's like he can distinguish himself. So they have the camera view for him very daunting like and very uniform, which is super ironic because he augmented his uniform from the his episodes, like the first episode or the second episode. That's like the first thing like they have you like think about him. It's like, oh, like did you adjust your uniform? He's like, yeah, I had it tailored. The the generic one that everyone has, even I have, even though I'm in charge. People are stepping beyond their boundaries or reaching or looking past their own boundaries or just quietly following the line. Maybe not even acknowledging that it's a boundary or like a something that can waver. But whether if it's your boundaries or the upside or downside of things, they all have a footing somewhere and they're all trying to lead themselves to where they can go and come back from. That'll be the end of our episode. There's some honorable mentions to Vel and her very fabulous movie star hair. If you want to leave a comment and make some suggestions of what else I should start reviewing and discussing, leave them down there. Otherwise, I will see you next time. We're quite a ways from the actual end of the show, or the season of the show. It's got the 12 episode fiction show amount of episodes. Fiction being nothing that you would actually run into one for one, but it is longer than the ones that are just 6 episodes or 4 episodes, mixing with certain themes that you could actually interact and engulf yourself in, that you would be able to experience yourself. So hopefully you'll be ready for episode 8, Narkiana. I'm Alistair, and this has been Sleep Atomic. I'm kind of upset that I can't figure out why people are putting red on their arms. Like that shore trooper. But hey, you look good, and it shows.